Welcome back to the From Moses to Mookie podcast. We're taking a look at how the black population in Major League Baseball has really declined over the last 30 years or so. In the very first episode, I gave a little quick recap of these stats and how the black population in Major League Baseball represented about 18.4%, and in 2016 it dropped to 6.7%. So there's a significant difference between those two over a relatively short stretch. We've taken a look at how the Negro Leagues played an integral role in forming this community aspect, and it really helped to stimulate black identity and the black economy in certain areas. And so it really helped to establish a black identity and associate baseball with that. What I want to get into today is some of the more logistical aspects of baseball and why it is making it more difficult for black families to play. The very first I want to talk about is cost. Now, it's not a secret that the average black family in America makes less money than the average white family in America, which means that any sort of significant cost is going to impact black communities at a higher rate and more seriously than it would in white communities. So let's take the current state of baseball. It used to be that if you want to play baseball, you could grab a couple buddies, go to the cul-de-sac, play some stick ball. Me and my buddies, we grabbed a baseball bat and a tennis ball, and we designated three mailboxes as our bases, and we played baseball. That was how we played baseball. Eventually, that turned into organizational ball, and that's basically where baseball is now. Whereas if you are not playing in a rec league, you're not playing showcase, you're not playing travel ball, you're really not playing baseball. You really don't have a chance to get recruited at all. And it makes it difficult because in order to play baseball, you have to have two things. You have to have the equipment and you have to have a team. The problem is both those are expensive right now. The equipment for baseball, if you just look at the bat, the glove, the cleats, the bat's going to cost you around $200, and that'll last you maybe 2 seasons. A glove will cost you around $150 to $250, might last you 3 to 4 seasons, and your cleats, they could last you 2 seasons or so if you take good care of them, but most players don't. And so you're looking at spending $80 on a new pair of cleats every year. You add all those up, and over a 4-year stretch, you could be looking at possibly $1,000 on equipment. So you've got that to start with. You add in the fact that some teams make you pay for pants, make you pay for hats, belts, socks, whatever. You add in the other expenses that you bring on yourself, sunglasses or an arm sleeve or wristbands or anything like that, adds on to the cost more. So you're looking at possibly $1,000 in equipment over a 4-year stretch. Then you add in the fact that you have to pay for a team. Now, some of these rec leagues are pretty inexpensive. American Legion Baseball is a high school organization. Most of those teams are relatively inexpensive, at least in North Carolina. I'm an American Legion coach, and we try to keep our dues down. We had $80 dues last year. We did have to bump it up this year, but a lot of organizations will keep it within that $100 to even $300 range, which is a pretty good deal considering the other option is to go play showcase ball, which even if you're playing for a bad team like I used to, it might cost you $1,200 just to be on the roster, and then you have to pay for gas and for hotels and for food on top of that. Not to mention the fact that you need the time to be able to play that, and your parents need the time to transport the kids from place to place, to get to the practices, all that kind of stuff. So you're looking at, even for a cheap team, probably around $1,200. But if you're playing for a good team like the Dirtbags or the Evo Shield Canes or the South Charlotte Panthers, you're probably looking at significantly more than just $1,200. The problem is that cost is almost supposed to buy your way to an opportunity to maybe get a scholarship. That's the second biggest point with the logistics, is that in college, a lot of kids want to go to college and play college athletics, but baseball is not one of those sports where it really supports its athletes. The NCAA allocates 11.7 scholarships per baseball team among 35 guys. That is a very, very low number, So what you see happen is instead of guys getting full rides to play baseball for, let's say, Tennessee or for North Carolina or for Florida State, or Texas, you're looking at guys getting maybe 20% scholarships, 30%, 50%, 33%, somewhere in that range where you really have to be careful about how many scholarships you're limiting out. And so for the players that played showcase ball, you have a greater opportunity because you have greater exposure. But for the kids that don't play showcase ball, or the kids who just stay in rec league, or the kids who play in their cul-de-sac that might be actually pretty good, they never get the light of day because they can't afford to play showcase ball. And even if they could afford to play showcase ball, there's no guarantee that they'd be able to get a scholarship in college. So the educational opportunity just isn't there. And the MLB draft, this is according to Baseball America, over 74% of players drafted in the 2018 draft came from some form of college, whether that was a 4-year university or 2-year university. So playing in college is extremely important. The third part I want to mention is that there are specific unwritten rules in baseball, and one of the ones that really grinds people's gears is the fact that if you hit a home run and you celebrate, the pitcher may hit you with the next pitch. There's a good chance. And where pitchers throw it varies. It might be the hip or the butt or the legs or the back, or in really bad cases, the head, depending on how the pitcher feels and how bad or how much you celebrated, I guess. That scares kids off, 100%. If you tell an 8-year-old, hey, if you have too much fun playing this game, somebody's going to come out there and try to hurt you. That's a scary thought. Getting hit with a baseball is not a fun experience. As a guy who played in college, played in high school, played showcase ball, played Legion ball, I've been hit a lot. And it's not fun. You get used to it eventually, but a lot of kids, when you start off, you see a fastball coming at you, you want to get out of the way. And rightfully so, because it's a projected missile, almost. And it's coming right towards you, and it's going to hurt. At the Little League level, it may not seem like a big deal to be hit with a 55-mile-an-hour fastball, but what about when you get into middle school when kids are throwing 65? Or high school when you're throwing 75 to 80? Or college, or even really good high school when you're throwing 85 to 90? What kind of incentive is there to have fun if somebody's just going to hit you? And so those three are already deterring players themselves and from families from wanting to play, because maybe you're not able to afford to play, maybe you don't have the educational opportunity to play, and maybe you just don't want to risk the injury to play. The fourth part is that communities really may not have the ability to support baseball because it takes up so much space. Baseball, a regulation baseball field, so we're going to assume 90-foot bases, a 60.5-foot mound, and let's just say 300 feet to left field and right field, and about 365, 380 feet in center field. That's about 130,000 square feet to set up, to maintain for a full year, because a lot of teams will play both the fall and the spring. You compare that to basketball, which requires 4,700 feet of space. And again, that's not including stands for either of them. It is including foul territory for baseball, but that's part of the play area. That's part of the play area. So communities have to make a decision. Do we want to support baseball and invest a lot of money to both establish a field and then to maintain it, mow it, water it, rake it, all that kind of stuff, weed it? Or do we want to spend a little bit less money and invest in a smaller area that is going to require less maintenance? If I'm the director of City Parks and Rec Service and I'm trying to figure out how to use taxpayer money to the best of my ability, there's a very good chance that I would rather build the basketball court than a baseball field. Just from a financial standpoint, it just doesn't make as much sense to build the baseball field. So you see that there are a lot of factors working against people in general who may not make as much money, and the African American population falls into that. You've got the cost, the educational opportunity, the risk of injury, and then for communities, you have space. Baseball is logistically a very difficult sport to set up and to support the way it needs to be supported. So we see that, again, individuals and communities are struggling to find the value in baseball because in some part, baseball really hasn't done much for their community. not recently at least. You look at the Negro Leagues and how much they supported their community and how much they stimulated that community and therefore their identity. And then you compare it to today, where it just does not seem to be the same relationship between Major League Baseball or even minor league baseball and the surrounding area. So stick around and we will get into some more topics. Coming up next, we'll talk about the Latin American baseball infusion. You see a lot of immigrants coming in and a massive wave. It's growing while the black population is diminishing. We're going to get a deeper look at that in the next episode, so stay tuned. You don't want to miss it.